Greetings to you all and welcome back to yet another exciting episode of Matters of Faith. My name is Lincoln Kapswara. In a nation that boasts of various religious groupings, our goal on this program is to give these various groupings an opportunity to come on the show and defend their faith. Today, I believe we are in for a very intriguing discussion that is going to keep you at the edge of your seat. We're going to be talking about a discipline that is known as apologetics. No, not apologizing, but apologetics. I know it may sound very unusual and something that you may not have heard, but today we're going to understand what is this apologetics. And to help us answer this question and more today, I'm joined by none other than Mr. Kudakwashe Muzembe. Kudakwashe is the co-founder and project developer at Grandis Africa, a company which focuses on solar energy and power constraining and technology. He is also part of the Mandela Washington Fellow, which is under President Barack Obama, otherwise known as YALI. He is also the co-founder of a TV program or a program that is known as Radiant Culture, which focuses on conversations around difficult and also very controversial subjects in Christianity. Kudakwashe serves in various leadership capacities in his local church, from being a worship leader, a youth leader, and he's also involved in the marketplace. He is passionate about learning and understanding the truths of Christianity. And it is with this that has got him on this journey of wanting to understand more about apologetics. Kuda is an astute student of apologetics, and so today we're going to have him kind of give us an understanding. And Kuda, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you here.
Thank you.
And let's get right into it, shall we? I'm so looking forward to this. You know, like I said, when I first saw this word, I thought it was apologize.
Right.
I don't know if it comes from the root word apologizing, but it's apologetics.
Right.
Can we start by just giving us what is the definition of the word apologetics, and also specifically in terms of Christian apologetics?
Okay, sure. In fact, before we start, I just want to correct you. So, Radiant Culture is not a TV program. It's a podcast. So it's a podcast that we've been running now we actually celebrated our 5th anniversary last year in November. So it's been an amazing journey. So check that out.
Yeah.
But so apologetics is a very interesting concept, right? Because the word apologetics is actually, it's a transliteration from a Greek word apologia, which means to give a defense.
Yeah.
Right. So it's giving a defense for a position, for something that you believe in. And when it comes to Christianity, I guess you've seen where even in political circles where somebody will say this person is a ZANU-PF apologist or an MDC apologist. What it just really means is that this person defends this party and its ideologies and what it stands for. So when we bring that to Christianity, a Christian apologist is really somebody who defends the Christian faith from multiple angles. And so the concept is really derived from 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15 in the Bible, which says, each of you should be able to give a reason for the hope that is within you.
Good.
That word reason is the word which is then translated to a defense. It's a well thought out intellectual defense for what you believe in. That's really what it is.
That's interesting. So I like you use the word intellectual, and automatically my red flags of spiritual Christianity jump up, because I'm like, okay, it seems like you're talking a lot about intellectual. Even like this definition that you've given us, it's being able to give a defense. So I believe I concur with a number of other believers who may say this sounds a bit like it's something that focuses too much on intellectualism.
Right.
Would you say that's correct? And maybe it disregards the spiritual aspects that are so important to us.
Right. So one of the key things about belief systems and about religion or faith or worldviews, right? I know these are all terms that I'm throwing around, and I'll get to explain them properly, is that every single person in the world has a position on something, right? Everyone believes in something. From the person who says, I belong to this religion, to the person who says, I have no religion at all. I'm an atheist, right? Even the atheist has a worldview to defend, because you're going to be able, you need to be able to give responses to certain important questions.
Good.
Right? So I think everyone is an apologist in one way
some
or
way
another.
or the other. Okay.
Right? So the whole intellectual aspect of it is that, I guess, because this is something that belongs to the realm of ideas, and to the realm of thinking, where you're trying to work through these concepts, really mental in a mental way.
Okay.
So because of that, I guess you then have to have the ability to explain why you believe in a way that somebody who doesn't share the same persuasion can process and understand. So as a Christian, it's easy to say, we have faith in the Bible because of 1, 2, 3, 4, and we believe in the resurrection. But somebody who doesn't have that same persuasion needs to be able to say, but I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even
understand what you're
saying.
So
can you explain it to somebody who doesn't have that same foundation as you in a way that they can relate to?
I like what you're saying there, because now you're saying it has to move beyond just feeling.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's, I feel this way. I'm a Christian, so I do this because this is how I feel.
Right.
But you're saying let's move this to a higher realm where we're now operating at the realm of thought and intellect. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, good. Now, I want to throw this one right at you. You know, you're a Christian apologist, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. There's back in school I studied and we did history and we learned about the theory of evolution. That human beings evolved from apes. That we were once apes, you and I, and over time we evolved and we became, it went through all those, I don't remember all of them, Homo sapien, all those kind of things.
Homo habilis.
Exactly, and I think it's Charles Darwin who brought that theory.
Yeah.
Now, as a Christian apologist, you defend and you say man didn't evolve from apes. You say man was a created being, created by a God who, here's my question, a God that we can't see, that we can't touch. How do you defend that position? How can, it sometimes feels like to me that Charles Darwin's theory is easier to understand than the theory of a God that I've never seen before.
Right. Okay, so something just really quickly that I want to say is that Christian apologetics is not a specialist activity in the sense that somebody can say they're Christian apologist, meaning that maybe they're a public intellectual who actually defends the faith, maybe as part of their occupation, or that's what they actually do. I get to do it on my podcast and on various other platforms. But really, every single Christian is an apologist.
Yes.
Right? It's a matter of whether or not they do a good job at it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I just wanted to throw that out
That's
there.
Good.
So back to this. Yes, this is a big one. Really, really big one, because it involves a lot of things. It's something that we were almost force-fed, right, when we were in school.
When we were in school, that's what we were taught.
And we were told that this is how reality is. And if you look at the whole realm of the sciences, this is almost like the default belief that everyone subscribes to the fact that human beings came from apes, like you mentioned. I think there's several things that we have to contend with and look at, right? Number one, the Bible presents a very interesting picture. It says that man is the product of a well thought out, fine-tuned, deliberate design.
Okay.
Right? In other words, man was specifically designed to be here by a creator, a designer.
So I like that. So we're still on point one, but I'm going to have to interject you quickly.
Sure.
We're going to have a quick break.
Sure.
But I'm so looking forward to just hearing, because I think the theory of evolution is such an important one to defend when it comes to Christian apologetics. So we're going to take a quick break. Join us when we come back with Kudakwashe Muzembe. Welcome back to Matters of Faith. My name is Lincoln Kapswara. In studio today, I'm joined by Kudakwashe Muzembe, who is a Christian apologist. Well, he's let us know that all Christians are actually apologists in some way. It's just, he said something very important before the break. He said it all depends how well you defend your position, and that's what we have to work on. But before we went for the break, you were beginning to talk and give an explanation around the defense with the theory of evolution. Man evolved from an ape, but you are coming in with a different angle from a Christian point of view. Do you want to go ahead and just explain that?
Yeah. So I think what's important to understand is fundamental. So what I mean by that is the Christian position says that man came from a God who designed everything. So in fact, we have to look at it beyond just man. We have to look at it from the universe itself. The Christian belief is that the universe exists because there's a God who intentionally
Okay.
designed every single detail of it. So everything is fine-tuned to be a certain way because of an intentional designer,
Design. Okay.
right? If we look at the theory of evolution based on what Charles Darwin
Yeah.
was saying, he was saying that the theory of evolution is a process that happened almost by itself, automatically, no intention behind it, no design behind it.
Yeah.
Somehow things
things
just
just
began to happen.
Okay.
And so when I look at our universe, when I look at the way things are,
Yeah.
when you walk into your bedroom, for example, and you see a brand new MacBook Pro, you never assume that got there by some
I just-
accident.
Yeah.
You always assume design and intention. It got there because somebody placed it there,
Okay.
right? For some reason. So when we come back to this whole theory of evolution, there's so many things. I'm not a scientist, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to get into
No, sure.
into the deep scientific underpinnings of everything. But just from a conceptual level, when you look at that and say, if we're evolved from apes, who created the first ape?
Okay,
Right?
okay.
Who began the process of that very
Very
first
first ape.
singularity that they say everything began from this
From something.
singularity? Where did it come from?
Okay.
Right. And so a lot of questions begin to emerge. Questions like, so why is there something rather than nothing?
Yeah.
Right? Why is it there in the first place? So it just happened. So to me, the theory of evolution makes no sense given the way
Okay.
our world works.
Yeah.
However, I do understand that there are many things that scientists continue to discover,
Yeah.
things like fossils and bones and all these
Yes,
different things,
yes.
right? I believe that really doesn't necessarily present a case for atheistic evolution, right?
Okay.
I think all those things actually point us to a designer and
That
a
someone
creator.
had to have designed
that
it.
someone has to have designed it.
Okay.
Now, in terms of getting into the actual details of how evolution happened, the different positions that are there, there's so many different resources I can point you to because
Okay.
there are Christian scientists who've got a whole lot of, like a plethora of information on what
Okay.
they believe and
That's
how
good.
they defend that based on what the Bible says. There's a
Okay.
guy called, what's his face? Reasons to Believe. I'm forgetting his name. But if you
Okay.
check out Reasons to Believe, there's a whole thing there where they get into all of that.
And they
I
explain
think
that.
they explain it from a Christian standpoint. And of course, I like to point people to resources or to more authoritative voices. But I'm just saying from a conceptual level for me, it makes no sense that a world that is so fine-tuned
Yeah.
for
Could have just
life
happened without-
just happened with. And then also, what is the next stage of evolution?
Okay.
From
If
here.
Okay. I get you. Okay, so now as you're speaking, there's something jumps to me is, a question. Do all religions, because even as I hear you speaking, does that mean that all religions lead to God? You see, and I think this is the question that many people have, because it somewhat comes to me that Christianity almost claims this exclusivity,
Right.
which almost makes Christianity have this arrogance about it. Kind of attitude,
Yeah.
Everything is Christian based. So is it true to say that everything, every religion points back to God? What would you say about that?
Great question. That's a very, very good question. The first thing I want to say is that truth, by definition, is exclusive.
Okay.
The moment you say something is true, you're by definition saying everything else is false.
It's false. Yeah.
No matter what it is. So when Christianity claims to be true, all it's simply saying is that based on the Christian narrative, based on the claims made by the Bible, based on the claims made by Jesus Christ, Christianity is true. And that by definition means that everything else is not true.
It's false. Okay.
And I know
That's
this is
a bold
it's
statement.
it's a tricky one because people think, man, that's quite an arrogant thing to say. But
Yes.
if you look at it this way, right? Jesus Christ comes and he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. If you look at every other figure in history who's ever existed, every other claimant to prophetic status or religious status or whatever, every other person who's been viewed as the founder of a religion or the founder of a movement, we may look at Buddha, we may look at Muhammad, we may look at all these different people. None of them ever made such a claim.
Okay.
They always say they know the way to the truth, or they point you to the truth, or they have a set of principles that will lead you to truth.
Yeah.
Only one person ever said, I am the truth.
Yeah.
And for me, if you
So hold on there, Kuda, because even as you say that, I am the truth, again, comes back to my question, doesn't that make God sound arrogant? That God would have the audacity to say, I am truth.
if you are God, if you created everything, because
Yeah.
I think our concept of God is a bit warped, right?
Okay.
We like to reduce God to what we can understand. But if you look at our entire universe, the complexity of everything in our world, right? The complexity of the human body, everything. The person or the being who created all of that, right? I think has the capacity to literally make any claim
Sure.
that he wants,
Okay.
right? So I think when Jesus Christ comes, it's important for us to understand who Jesus is, because Jesus doesn't just come as a normal human being.
Yeah.
Jesus is coming and saying, I am God. I am the Son.
I am the way.
I'm the way. I'm the Son of God.
Yeah.
And so the claims that he's making are based on this foundation, which is saying, I created everything.
Okay.
I know humanity. I know the issues. I know all the details of this world. And so when I say I am the truth, what I'm literally saying is that I'm not pointing you to the truth,
Yeah.
right? I don't have a set of principles that will lead you to truth. I am the truth, meaning that
Okay.
only in him is there truth. So what we then have to say is that it's either he was crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He was just
To
some
say
lunatic.
something like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or he was a liar, outright liar.
Yeah.
He's just, or he really is the truth.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to look at it like
Okay.
that. And I believe when we look at the evidence, when we look at the historical evidence, the philosophical evidence, when we look at reality as it is in
Yeah.
our world versus what the claims that he was making, I believe it makes perfect sense
Okay.
that he is the truth.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
That's interesting, Kuda. You know, as you're talking there, Christianity wasn't something. Now, I may be sitting here on the other side as an African traditional leader
Okay.
who says, you know what, I know my roots, I know where I came from. A lot of what I understand is different to what you were telling me as a Christian.
Right.
And when we look at even our nation, Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
we can all say that Christianity, yakaya never rungu. It came never chain. It came with the white people. It wasn't something that we knew of or that we were born into.
Right.
It is something that was introduced to us. And I want you to explain that from your point of view. But before we do that, we're going to take another quick
Sure,
break.
sure.
And when we come back, I want to hear Kuda explaining the aspect of this, how Christianity, as we look at it in terms of looking at it against African traditional leaders. Join us when we get back. Welcome back to Matters of Faith. My name is Lincoln Kapswara. I'm joined in studio by Kudakwashe Muzembe, a Christian apologist. And Kuda, just before the break, I asked you a question around religion and how there's this notion in Zimbabwe that Christianity came with the white men, our colonizers. So why should we even accept this as something as truth to us when we have our own kind of religion, African traditional religion?
Yeah. I think this is a very valid question and an important one, a very important one. And of course, this is a hot discussion in our world right now. There is a legitimate place for us to ask that question,
Yeah.
to say we were colonized and colonization was a terrible thing. Our resources were plundered. A lot of terrible things happened to our forefathers, our ancestors. And then we had this religion imposed on us, and now we've sort of embraced it as our own. Isn't that almost betraying our heritage? And I think an important thing to think about there is that Christianity is not a white man's religion.
Okay.
Right? Just if you look at it just from the foundation of Christianity, Christianity did not start in Europe.
Okay.
Christianity was not founded by a white man. Jesus was by no means a white man.
Okay.
The apostles, the whole world in which Christianity started was not a white world by whatever definition of white we use, right? Then another important thing to realize is that Christianity was in Africa way before even the transatlantic slave trade.
Okay.
Some of the earliest church fathers, some of the earliest voices and theologians were of African descent.
Okay.
This is as early as the 300s, the 200s, right? These were people who adopted the gospel and ran with it, right? And so if you study a lot of the history of the church, you find that some of the individuals who then went into places like Ethiopia, who laid the foundations and sowed the seeds for what became the Ethiopian Coptic church.
Yeah.
These were individuals who were there early days, right? Before there was anything like slavery, before there was anything like colonization. In fact, there's a gentleman called John Beatty, who's an African theologian. He's late now. he actually says that Christianity has been in Africa for long enough for it to be considered as one of the indigenous religions.
Okay.
Right? Which is an interesting
Very
idea
interesting.
altogether. But coming back to this issue of colonization, there's an important statement that I want to make, which is this. It's that you do not judge a philosophy or a system by its abuse.
Okay.
Right? Simply meaning that you don't judge the validity or the reliability of something based on how it's been abused. If somebody takes a car and they ram that car into a group of people and they kill people, if we then conclude that cars are bad because cars kill people, what we're simply doing is that we're taking something that has been abused,
Yeah.
and we're using that as the basis for its validity or its existence. And I think similarly, a lot of things happened within Christianity. A lot of things happened in the way that it was brought to Africa, which were bad.
Okay.
And I'll support 100% that the demonizing, the vilifying of what Africans held dear and what they believed in, and sort of just overlooking that and trivializing it, and then sort of superimposing this religion on them, I think was wrong in the way that it was done, with no critical thought whatsoever. However, we have to look and say, when this happened, was that the primary thing that Christianity stands for, or was that an abuse of Christianity, right? And what I can frankly tell you is that it was an abuse of Christianity, because all you have to do is go back to the founder of Christianity himself, right? Which is Jesus Christ. What was his message? His message is that love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. And he says, love your neighbor as yourself. If you look at who Jesus was in the world that he lived in, he constantly challenged social justice issues. He constantly challenged what people viewed as society and what they held as values, because he was pointing them to something greater. So would that same Jesus then say it's okay for people to come into a world and totally colonize people and demonize them? I don't think so.
That's interesting. You said something, as you were talking, and thanks for that elaborate explanation. But you said that Jesus is not even white. That's what you said. You made a very interesting statement there. But when I look at television and I look at, a lot of walk into different churches, Christian churches. When I look at pictures and paintings and all that, all I see is a white Jesus. I've never seen a black Jesus. And yet you tell me that Jesus was not white. How do we defend that position?
Okay, so a lot of those pictures that you're seeing is what's called Renaissance art, right? That's art from the era of the Renaissance, where all these different artists started coming up with all kinds of images as they imagined them, and those became the popular pictures. So if you look at the pictures, the popular picture of the Last Supper and all these pictures, we have one in my house, right? Because my mom is Anglican. I grew up Anglican. So we have this picture, and honestly, it ticks me off every time I look. I'm like, this is, but it's there, and she loves it, right? And so we grew up with these pictures of this guy with flowing white hair and stuff. But I think these are the pictures that we really need to expunge from our heads, because I think they do a disservice to what we view and understand as Christianity. I would say this. I would say that if God is really who the Bible says he is, that he's the God who created every single human being, every race, every tribe, every religion, not every religion, sorry, every nation and culture. It seems that this is a God who wants the world to be populated with teeming diversity, right? Why would that God restrict himself to a single color? Why does he need to be a white guy with white hair who looks like Michael Bolton or something? Like, for me, it's like, why? It actually, if we think about that from a critical point of view, it makes no sense. So I would just say, get rid of all those images. If they really affect you that way, just get rid of them.
Unfortunately, that's the picture that we then, and that's why it strengthens the aspect of saying why it's almost like this is a religion that has been pushed down our throats. Because all we see is this picture of the colonizer, and he seems to be taking up much of the space. But another question, you spoke about truth. There's this new movement that's going around that's called the Me Truth or the My Truth, where basically they suggest that truth is no longer universal, but it's subjective. If it's true to me, that's all that matters. It doesn't have to be true universally. It's just what applies to me. How do you speak to that one?
I think we have to look at where culture has come from. If you study just the whole process of culture and how we got to where we are today, there have been several movements. If you study the history of philosophy and different things, you see different voices like people like David Hume and these are European philosophers. But there've been all these movements, right? And all of this has, at each stage, has affected the way, or has influenced the way people view reality.
Yeah.
So there's been modernism, there's been postmodernism, and we're now living in a culture that is known, well, it's defined as the post-truth culture.
Exactly.
Right? And but these have been movements that have happened, right? A lot of it has just been in rebellion to the status quo. So if we come to where we are today, due to many factors, due to media and social media, due to the availability of all kinds of information, we're at a place where people feel like, hey, I want the autonomy to define who I am as a person, right? I can define who I am, I can define what I like, what I stand for. I can even define who I am at an ideological level. So I can define what's true to me, right? So what's true to me is that I want the world to be...
And even maybe at a sexual level. I can say, you know what, this is who I am.
My orientation. This is what I want to be.
Look, I would love for us to keep having this conversation, but I think you've really painted a good picture for us and the viewers just to reflect on the aspect of apologetics and just how it relates to all of us, really. And it's not just something that's exclusive. It's been a pleasure talking to you on matters of faith. And we're excited to hear you just defending the aspect of Christianity. And to our viewers, we continue, same time, same place, right here on 3K TV. As we continue to unravel these various religions, we will continue to have various religions coming onto this show. Muslims, African traditional leaders, with one goal in mind: can you defend your faith? Thank you so much for joining us.